Hey guys, what is up and welcome back to some more online league racing content here today on the F1 2019 game, and this is the Chinese Grand Prix for the AOR Apex Online Racing season here today. And this track is actually one of my least favourites of the season. The last episode was at USA, guys, around the Circuit of the Americas. Another track where I just am not very quick around there, and I actually managed to pull off a race with a broken throttle. So if you haven't seen it, guys, it will be linked in the top right hand corner of your screen. But today we are here at China, and once again it's a bad race for us. Once we survive this race, the next race after that is a good one. So hopefully once we get this out of the way, that'll be the run of bad races over, and we can then move into some better tracks for me, which suit my pace and my driving style. But with that being said, let's jump into the qualifying and let's see what happened around the Shanghai International Circuit. Right, so here we are then jumping into qualifying, and this session was an interesting one, and the reason being is because China is one of those tracks where you want to avoid these soft compound tyres. Therefore, you naturally select the harder of the allocations at the start of the race weekend. And in this case, of course, what you do is you go on to qualifying and you basically do loads of laps on the hard tyres, trying to burn the fuel off, get a feeling for the track, and just try to improve your lap time. And this isn't my strongest kind of version of doing things. You know, I struggle with pace when we do these kind of race weekends with the slower compounds. Either way, you can see here on my final lap, I did improve by 1.2 seconds, and we moved up into the top 10, but still 8 tenths off VSR Kevin's pace, who is currently leading the way. And then eventually at the end of that run, we decided to pit in as we run out of fuel, and we are now going to wait for a medium tyre run. Now for this one, I actually put enough fuel in for 2 laps, and this first lap was pretty good. You know, we set a purple sector 2, we was half to second to 6 tenths up on my previous best, but I was still half a second off Tonitza's lap, and I felt like I had a bit more pace in the car, so I actually backed off going through the banking. I'm going to save a bit of fuel and DRS, and we're going to try and go for one more. So here's the full lap. Hopefully you guys enjoy it, and this was my best lap of the qualifying session.
Seconds left in the session.
And here we go at the final corner, and I forgot to open DRS on the run to the line. We do still improve by a massive amount, and 4 tenths off Tonitza's pace, so we do set a pretty respectable lap, but the results of qualifying were incredible, and I mean incredible. We was P5 at the time, and I thought I was pretty safe, but everybody else improved. But oh my goodness me, look how close it was. You know, myself, Pablo Futes, Zename, Boomsong K, even VSR Jake, Scrippy. I honestly think if I'd actually kept DRS open on the run to the line, we could have qualified P7 just by keeping the DRS open. The gap from 7th to 10th is absolutely ridiculous. I think I could have maybe even had P6, and because a 10th is a lot, but you can find a 10th with DRS. So I do feel like, you know, that small little error of not using DRS cost us quite dearly, and in the end we qualify P10, which is not what I hoped for, especially on a 14 car grid. We're right towards the bottom, and this isn't my best track anyway, so it's not great, but we'll try and make it work in the race. Either way, Mark Tonitza is back on top with pole position, VSR Kevin in second, and Corsac in third. So the top three in the championship are 1, 2, 3 here today in China, and we are only down in 10th place. And all of our rivals, such as Pablo Futes and VSR Jake, are ahead of us. So we've got it all to do in the race here at China. So let's jump into it and let's see how we get on here for round number 7 of the season. Right lads, here we go then for the start of the AOR race here at China, and of course we are starting down in 10th place, so not the best qualifying, but we're going to be on a mission here to, for redemption and try and hopefully fight our way back through. And what you're about to witness is one of the most dirty, incredible first laps I've personally ever had on an online race. So here we go. 5 red lights are building up here at Shanghai. Revs in the sweet spot, and we get away, and it's a beautiful launch from us off the line. We get away fantastically well. We get past Pablo Futes and also the Ferrari of Zename as we go down the inside into turn 1. Also picking up the inside line there on Boomsong K in the Red Bull, as we're going to try and pick up P7 here, just tucked in behind VSR Jake in the Toro Rosso. We're going to go around the outside of turn number 3 now and try and get the power down on the outside line. A bit of contact as we get a little bit loose, but we do make the move, and what a fantastic start, moving up to P7, but then suddenly into turn 5, an absolute just massacre happens. 3 cars dive bomb me, 2 on the inside, 1 on the outside. There's contact. Somehow we kept our front wing, but I'm back down to 10th place as behind us Pablo Futes looking for a move there. We do manage to hold on as we now try and go back down the inside of Boomsong K, but I got absolutely destroyed, and Pablo Futes looking for a move. We cover off the inside there with an early apex into the left-hander, and we hold on to our 10th place, but unfortunately all our good work at the start undone by multiple dive bombs into turn 5, so that's a real shame. And now Pablo Futes with the dive of his own down the inside into the left hand, which is fair enough, clean move from him. We're going to try and fight it though, as we get a bit of oversteer and have to actually steer into him by accident. We now get the power down though, going onto the back straight. We are going to edge out the Alfa Romeo at first, but then he kind of gets back alongside, getting a slight tow from the cars in front, so we have to crank up the engine to full power to try and stay in front of the Alfa Romeo as we now make our way into the brake zone, into the hairpin, and on the brakes, as you'd expect, more dive bombs this time. Somehow I didn't hit the back of Boomsong K. I could see the red arrows approaching, and I had to brake as late as I could to avoid contact, and we actually got to the grass, and the Renault and also Pablo Futes, there were 2 massive dives, and again it was one of the craziest first laps ever. And just to put the cherry on the cake, this move here, this lovely little move, we go down the inside and then suddenly we get swiped off on the nose to put a closing chapter on what was a really annoying and frustrating first lap for me. I wasn't a fan of that at all. That was the first of many, from Pablo Futes in this race. That turn 1 closing the door was very aggressive in my opinion. I did report to the stewards after the race for more incidents, which we'll see now as we now cut onto lap number 4. We're on the back of him. He's struggling for a little bit of pace here, and I clearly have the edge. I'm not super fast around here, but I am faster than P11, and I should be into the points and making my way forward. Considering we was P7 off the start, we should be a lot higher up at the minute, but we are losing so much time in traffic. Eventually we're going to try and go for the move here, and down to the hairpin. Pablo does defend the inside now, so we're going to go to the outside, but he moves back across 2 moves in the brake zone. We hit the back of him, we lock up somehow. I don't know how, but somehow we didn't get any wing damage yet again in this race, but we are stuck behind him, and already at that point I knew I was going to report him for the 2 moves, because that was not a nice one. Wasn't a fan of that move one bit. Next lap number 5, we're on the back of him once again, and he gets very loose here through the banking, as does the Mercedes in front. I believe it's my teammate. You can see Pablo there getting a massive moment, and I should do the exact same thing there. We get very loose, but we are still well and truly in the slipstream of the Alpha driver as we try and look for this move for the 3rd time this race now, and he defends the inside. We're going to go for the little dummy and show him, but he moves again twice, covering off the inside. I run it very hot on the brakes. We tried to get the switchback here, and we have managed to get alongside him. He does get a bit of traction as we hold the outside. He's moving across there as he tries to force me off, and as a consequence I get very loose through the final corner, and again we have to hang back. And very aggressive driving, a very dirty driving in my opinion from Pablo Futes. You could push the limits once, and he already did that on lap 1 when he closed the door in turn 1, but that was just 1 too many moves. And eventually on lap 6 this time we got the run personal best, and I'm just going to go for the move. Even then he still did 2 moves on the straight once again there. He kind of fended to the left and then moved to the right if you watch it back in slow-mo. Eventually though we got past, and we move up to P10, and we've finally got past the Hungarian in the Alfa Romeo. So There we go, we're back to the points, and it took me 7 laps to get back to my starting position when originally we started P7. You know, we got such a good start in lap 1. We was doing so well. Then there's contact though as one of the Alphas goes spinning, and a Ferrari's in the pit lane. And there's a yellow flag at the final corner as we now move up to 8th place in this Grand Prix. And then...
Caution, the virtual safety car is out. Reduce speed and maintain a positive delta. Drop your speed, our delta is too low and we risk a penalty. Slow your pace immediately.
And yeah, we had a VSC in the race, and I believe it was because of the spin at the final corner involving Scrippy behind us. And then Arme and also Pablo Fuentes both went into the pit lane using the VSC to get a cheap pit stop, as we're going to pit the next lap now for the hard compound tyres. The mediums were starting to go already. Corsac, I believe, further up in the pit lane, he's also pitting as well, as he's one of the race leaders. And we're going to box for the hard compound tyres and go for a very simple one-stop strategy here today.
Release.
There we go, 2.5. Very simple, and now we're going to see where we're going to rejoin. I'm expecting Pablo to re-overtake us because he pit under VSC, so he got a cheap pit stop, and there he goes. He's going to get back past us once again as we get pushed back down.
That was our last stop. No more scheduled pit stops.
Pushed back down to P11, and we're once again out of the point. Zen Arme just behind us in the Ferrari. Luckily for us, he didn't manage to get the jump. He did try to put the pressure on and try and make for a move, but we had a bit too much pace for him, as we've now got Scrippy in the other Alfa Romeo in the pit lane, so we are going to retake P10. And crucially stay in front of him. And this is now an undercut attempt because we're going to try and undercut our teammate and also Boomson K in the Red Bull as we set a personal best on lap number 12. And these guys actually stayed out quite long on the mediums, which gave me a good chance to get a really strong and effective undercut on these guys as Marco Tanita sets the pace, 34.9 in the Ferrari. Meanwhile, you know, us, we ain't quite got the pace, but we are still doing 35.2, which is pretty good, only a couple of tenths off. And there is our teammate, and also there is Boomson K, and we are going to get both of them into turn 1. So we do manage to execute a perfect undercut, and we move up to 8th place now in this Grand Prix, and we have recovered back into the kind of position we were in lap 1 when we made those overtakes off the start line. And now the chase begins to try and hunt down Pablo Fuentes. The problem is, Boomson K was actually a little bit faster than me around here. He just had the edge on me in this race, but I managed to compete with him due to good strategy and good defending. You can see here this time we make one move, we defend the inside, he goes to the outside, so we're going to try and, you know, hold it on the brakes as we go into the hairpin. A little bit early, I could have gone a little bit later. Boomson K is still there on the outside as we go side by side into the final corner. Boomson doesn't move across, unlike Pablo Fuentes, he keeps it very clean. And now through the final corner, we wait for the DRS, and we're going to try and get him back here as we crank up the engine power and make our way down towards turn number 1. It's very, very close, neck and neck stuff, but we are going to absolutely just floor it and send it around the outside of turn 1, and we take back 8th place for now as we approach halfway distance in this Grand Prix, and we start lap number 14. So we survived the first attack from Boomson K. We're now on the hunt of Pablo Fuentes, and at the end of lap 15 we managed to get back within DRS and close enough to the Alpha to possibly have an attempt here to get past on him in the back straight. So here we go, just getting ready as we get a nice clean exit out of there, cranking up the engine, using the extra fuel and the ERS, and we're now going to wait for the DRS to become available. And there we go, full power now down the back straight, and surprisingly this time Pablo didn't defend the inside, and we just pull over, swoop down the inside, easy on the brakes, bit of a lock up to be fair, not the cleanest move on my end, but you know what, I took enough shit from this race from Pablo that I think a little bit of a lock up is the least of his worries. But there we go, we make the move, and we're now up to P6 in this race. So things were looking pretty well for us. You know, everyone done their pit stops, and we was holding a good position as we now gone to lap 18. And at this point now, it was all about Boomson K. He was faster than me, and I was just trying to work to keep him behind. Like, the gap was 1.1 seconds on the last lap, but now he's closed in. And on lap 21, he's going to try and go for a move here into turn 1. We're going to have to defend the inside. And Boomson, really, really nice attempt here to try and go around the outside to turn 1 and then turn 2. We just about get the throttle on. And yellow flag in front, as I believe FK Gaming, who was battling for the race win, actually goes for a spin out of turn 3. And he's now dropped out of that lead battle. Meanwhile, Boomson still looking for the move here, and we have to defend a little bit to turn 5, but I saw that he wasn't quite committing to the move, so we take the racing line and we move back onto the normal racing line. We then move on to the end of lap 22, and Boomson again looking for the overtake here as we go through the banking, just trying to get the power down. We get very, very loose. We have a massive moment on the exit, getting a big chunk of oversteer, and of course, remember, laps, so about 3-4 laps older than Boomson. Okay, of course, we did that big undercut, so his tyres are going to be a lot fresher than mine, as this time he goes to the outside. He's a lot further ahead this time, but we do go pretty late on the brakes, unlike last time. We're going to hold the inside line, and again, it's going to be side by side on the exit. Boomson, though, gets a great run once again out of there. This time he does get in front. As we go for the final corner, we're going to try and get back past, but I don't have the smoothest run through there. We do crank up the engine, and we're going to try again, though, but this time we're going to go on the inside, very narrow line, very shallow, down the inside of turn 1. It's a great battle between myself and Boomson. We almost touched tyres there, but we keep it clean. Very, very good stuff. And we're going to take the move. Again, we just put the throttle on a little bit, just to edge in front and take the line into turn number 3. And once again, we remain in P6 as we kick out onto this little short straight. We then cut onto the end of lap 24. And Boomson, again, is going to try and go for the move. And I'm trying everything at this point to try and keep him behind. But he just has so much more pace than me. And my tyres at this point were starting to suffer, so it was all about just trying to defend, use the ERS and the fuel tactically, as here comes Boomson on the brakes again into the hairpin. This time he goes for a different tactic. He goes for the switchback actually, and he does a good job, but we just about keep him behind, getting that nice clean traction, and we're going to lead into the final corner now, going onto the pit straight. We get a relatively good exit, but Boomson absolutely nailed it onto the pit straight. We're going to defend the inside very early on here, as the Rebel driver goes around the outside into turn 1. It's going to be side by side once again through the first corner, but Boomson has the better line. We have to give up some speed and go very narrow, and this time, the third time the charm, a little bit of contact there as Boomson does go around the outside, and fair play, it was a good move, and we tried to defend it, but at this point he was just too quick, and his tyres were just, too much grip for me. I couldn't quite do it, and now Pablo Fuentes was looking for a move here. I thought he was going to send it up the inside of turn 5, but he didn't quite do it, so that was a relief for me personally. As we now come to lap 26 here, we have actually kept up with Boomson. He hasn't run away with it. The DRS has kept me in play, and at this point it was all about trying to keep up with the Red Bull driver and save fuel and ERS for the final lap, and just try and make a last minute attempt to try and reclaim that position. So here we go, moving on to the last lap of the race. We're currently on for a personal best, giving it absolutely everything at this point, and we are within range of a DRS move on Boomson here, so it's all about this banking, which you can see the difference in traction. Boomson getting a really nice bit of acceleration there out there on those fresher tyres, and we're going to try and crawl and get this gap back down as we make our way onto the DRS, and now using overtake mode and the last bit of the rich mix here, closing in that array of knots down into the hairpin. We go very down the brakes. Boomson very defensive and very cautious. We tried to look for a switchback, but Boomson covers it off beautifully, and I can't quite make it happen. Michael Tanidze picks up the win. One more attempt through the final corner, trying to pick up the switchback line, but there's no use, and we're going to miss out on P6. But luckily for us, we actually claim it back across the line, because unbeknownst to me, Boomson actually had a 3-second time penalty due to track limit extension. So we actually get that 6th place back, and I'm going to say that was a good race, in my eyes. That was the best we could have done, really. Considering the circumstances. Michael Tanidze does pick up the win ahead of VSR Kevin, so Tanidze back on top after a couple of poor races. It's good to see him winning once again, and Corsac rounds off the podium, so the top 3 in the championship are 1, 2, 3 in the race once again. And we've got VSR Jake and Ravel in the championship, a brilliant 4th place from him. He's going to really pull ahead now in the Drivers' Championship, and FK, who was battling for the race win with that spin, finishes up in P5 in the end. And I do think he had more pace than me, of course, but I could have maybe battled him if on lap 1 we hadn't got held up, after the dive bomb into turn 5. It was P7, we could have been pretty comfortable with that race, and the strategy would have been different. It would have been a different race for us, but instead we lost 7 laps behind Pablo Fuentes, and it just completely ruined that race. So P6 in the end, I'm going to take that. And speaking of Pablo Fuentes, he got P7 in the end. I can confirm after Stewart's investigation that he did get 10 penalty points, 5 for each double defensive move on the back straight. So yeah, overall, justice was served, and you get 20 points. You do get a qualifying ban, so I think that's fair. It was very aggressive from Padlo, and somehow I kept my front wing, but that doesn't mean he should not be punished, because I didn't get any damage. So yeah, overall that's the verdict from there. We got Kozlak P8, Boomson in the end with the penalty finishes up in P9, and our teammate Sky or Skali finishes up in P10, so he does score a point here today. And then we have Scrippy, Zen Arme, Robert BVB, and Shocky all missing out on the points here today. In terms of what that means though for the driver standings after that race, it does mean VSR Kevin leads with 117 points to his name. Corsac P2, he's only 2 points ahead of Michael Tunisia, who with that win gets himself right back into the mix after a DNF in the last race and a couple of poor finishes before that. So it's looking very, very tasty actually, and you know, Tunisia actually has the most wins out of anybody this season with 3 wins to his name. So it's going to be interesting. Pablo Futes, P4, VSR Jake, who is Shadow on the standings, he's up in P5 with that 4th place finish, and we're currently P6. So our 2 rivals, you know, Jake gained a bit on us, we gained a little bit back on Pablo Futes, but generally speaking, we're a little bit further away. So we're 5 points behind the next car, and we have pulled away from Boomsong K, which is great. So he's now 8 points behind us. And Bruno Alves, who is of course Kizlaik in the Haas, he finishes up in P8 here today. So he is with 39 points to his name. Zename and FK round off the top 10. FK Gaming scoring 5 big points here today, and he moves his way up into the top half of the table. And then we have Scrippy, Yeltek, Waza, my teammate Sky down in 14th, Robert, Hittinen, JSR, Shocky, and finally Dax at the bottom of the table. But there you go, guys. We're now down to P6 in the championship as Jake overtakes us today with that 4th place finish. And we was 4th a couple of races ago, so we need to pick it up. And the next race is Australia. The good news is we have now done Italy, USA, and China. Those 3 were my worst tracks of the calendar, so I'm glad those are over. The next one, Australia, is a good track for me. Germany as well. Canada, Austria, Interlagos, they're all good tracks, so I'm looking forward to it. And hopefully we can end the season strongly. But guys, if you enjoyed this video, drop a like on it and subscribe if you are new for all the latest breaking news on F1 2020 and also league racing content on the F1 2019 game. More AOR content coming very soon on the channel, and also click the bell icon, guys, to be notified when those videos do go live. And finally, check out the 2 videos on your screen if you have missed them. But that is it from me here today at Shanghai, and I'll see you all next time for the next one in Albert Park in Australia.